Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another episode of Explode Your Expert Business Show. This is the show for coaches, speakers, and trainers who want to grow their business while making an impact in the world. My name is Simone Vincenzi. I'm the co-founder of GTeX, and I'll bring you different episodes each week. Sometimes it's a solo episode, giving you a bit of the behind the scene of the things that we are doing here at GTeX. Sometimes we interview clients and success stories so that you can learn from them. And other times we have experts that are lifting the veil on what works in their business, what the work that they do with their clients, and give you information that can help you grow your coaching and speaking practice, like we have today. But before we start, and I introduce our guest for today, and we are going to talk about creating a coaching business that you're absolutely in love with, a coaching business that you dream of. That's the topic of the day. I just want to remind you about something, because if you want to grow a profitable and sustainable coaching business, speaking business, it's going to be very difficult to do it if people don't know about you. That's why getting featured on podcasts, getting featured on publication, getting featured on media is crucial and vital for your business and for the impact that you want to make. And that's why we have created the Ultimate Publicity Bundle, where we have created a database of more than 700 podcasts, publications, radio shows, TV shows that you can reach out to. And you have the templates on how to reach out to them. So everything is in one place, because the last time I checked, a lot of coaches and speakers, they don't like to build databases. So we've done the hard work for you. Our team has done the hard work for you. So make sure you check the link in the comments. If you're watching this on YouTube, or if you're listening, scroll down, check on the show notes, and the Ultimate Publicity Bundle is there. Having said that, it is time to introduce our guest today. Today's guest is an outlier in the leadership world. He's an entrepreneur, a corporate thought leader, an acclaimed speaker, and author of several books, including the National Bestseller, Making Your Leadership Come Alive. As an executive chairman of Giant, a technology company focused on unlocking the potential of people, teams, and organizations, he is passionate about providing coaches and leaders with the tools and certifications they need to increase the performance of individuals and team. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome Jeremies Kubicek. Jeremies, welcome to the show. How are you doing?
So good to be with you. What a great introduction. I like it. And the accent sounds so real. I don't know how you do the accent. That's not real though, right?
No, I've practiced for many years how to fake the Italian accent just for the girls, just for the ladies, but that's another story. That's the Pickup 101 podcast and how to fake your best Italian accent. So, Jeremies, I live in London. You've been living in London. And before we get started into the interview and go into the juice of it, I want to ask you, because I haven't asked you before, why did you come to London? And what was the best memory that you have about London?
Yeah, so I moved to London because I had lived in Russia. When I was in my early 20s, I lived in Moscow, and I had traveled all over Europe and such. And so when my wife and I get married, we said, you know what, someday when our kids are older, we want to give them a chance to live outside of the US. And it was like one of those moments in time where, like, you know, it's perfect. Let's go for it. So we moved to London, and we kind of built our base into Europe from London for Giant and our businesses. And then, you know, our favorite part about it, honestly, is long meals. Long meals, because Europeans in particular, they know how to do meals and dinners really, really well compared to the US, which is get in, get out. And so just the long meals and the celebrations and the food culture. Actually, the food in London is so much better than people give it credit for.
Because and the reason why it's so much better, because there is not much British food in London, and I can and for all the British listening to the show, I've applied for my citizenship, so I'm one of you. But hey, there is a reason why you go to an Italian restaurant and not to a British one. Close brackets.
Yeah, the curry is legit, by the way. I do miss the curry. So
Well, whenever you come back, let's get a curry together. That will be that will be great. Yeah, let's talk about building a dream coaching practice and how. First of all, tell us a bit more about you and your journey and what got you to this point.
Yeah, so I'm an entrepreneur. I built 20 businesses, over 20 companies. Started in
Only 20.
So
Yeah.
since I was 21, I'm 50. So give you context. But when I was 21, I moved to Russia, started an economic school, a marketing consulting business, and an accounting training company. And while I was there, I had the opportunity to start. It was a crazy time. It was Russia, and it was like mafia everywhere. It was really, really nutty in the early 90s in Russia. Well, I had all of these Americans who started to ask me to kind of, I don't know, just be around them and help them. And so
also between America and Russia in that time, they weren't, it wasn't the best time between these two countries.
it was really, it was like James Bond, John Wayne. I mean, it was just crazy chaos. But I had all these Americans who asked me to start, like they wanted to meet with me on a regular basis. So I started being a coach at 21 years old to people who were twice my age, because there wasn't a lot of options for them and they needed an outlet. And I started just listening. And then I started giving them ideas and perspective. And I didn't know it, but I was learning to start a coaching practice. And I started coaching at 21 years old. And one of the, I have some crazy stories, but one of them was a client and he was assassinated. I mean, it was that crazy of a time. And I have a book called Making Your Leadership Come Alive. It's all my mafia stories. It's all the stories about influence. And I started to unpack and understand influence and see how influence works. And very quickly came up with tools and resources to help people see how they either minimize their influence or they maximize it. And so it just came, I started doing it at an early age, and then I've never stopped since 21.
Have you ever felt, like, am I not too young for this stuff?
Absolutely. I was so young. And then I realized that it's really not my age, it's the validation of clients. And if you act like you belong, and then you provide real value, then your clients will tell you if you're too young or not. And
how did you get in touch with the coaching industry? Because I'm curious now. As you said you're 50, you started when you started about 30 years ago, when you started your coaching business. No social media. The coaching industry wasn't as trendy. Like right now, everyone and their grandma is a coach. So how did you get in touch with the industry, and how did you learn about it?
I didn't. I had people ask me to counsel. I actually would tell you this. I had mentors and they were coaching me, and I was just meeting with them. And so everything I learned came from my mentors. And so I would meet with them, and then they would give me counsel and wisdom. And so then I would just take the same idea, and it was basically this. We have an hour together. I'd listen. What are you trying to accomplish? I'd learn to hold my thoughts until they've fully given their thoughts. And then I give them wisdom, and then they go, oh my gosh, that's so helpful. Can we meet next week?
Sure.
And I'm like, okay, sure. And then we would do it the next week, and then the next week. And then before long, I'm like, I guess I'm coaching. And then I was doing a lot of it for free. And then I started, that one guy goes, you know what? I'm going to pay you. This is so good. I'm like, okay.
Sure. Why not?
Therefore, that's how it started.
Well, no, it's fascinating because the reason why I asked you these few questions, because also I started my coaching business when I was 22, but that was 11 years ago. And, there was, I immediately, on one side, there were already a lot of training around coaching, around how to become a coach. And actually, probably the reason why I became a coach is because I went to a seminar, and they just didn't tell me that, people would not buy much from a 21-year-old life coach or 22-year-old life coach. They sold me the course well though. And I bought the course, I paid my $5,000. And then I said, you know what, adults, the kind of difficult market to crack. Let me actually work with kids. And for my first company was working in schools, and that was delivering about 140 schools a year after on the second year of the business. And there has been that passion for the craft and for the industry, and the option that we have in terms of like giving people possibilities, giving people hope, and the return that we get from it. So I'm curious to know, from we discussed the title of the interview, running a coaching business of your dream. What is the coaching business of your dream?
Yeah. So what it comes down to for me is learning how to be so relevant with people. So we figured out something, my business partner and I, who's in London, we figured out that most adults are cynical know-it-alls, and they don't read anymore, and they have their own attention issues. And so we're like, that's just the reality of the world. So we figured out how to use visual tools and a common language to transform people. And we have about 70 visual tools, because people don't read, they use visuals. So we created all of these tools around real life issues. We took our own issues and go, I have an issue with self-preservation. I have an issue with influence. I have an issue with time management. I have an issue with emotional intelligence. So all of the issues that we dealt with, and we started to create these visuals around it. So the ideal coaching business, in my opinion, is to be 21st century certified, like understand the dynamics of real people, leverage technology. So we created a platform and dashboards, and everything can be run from a technology, because I got so tired of keeping everything in journals and then trying to remember where it is. And so creating systems so that it makes it easy for scheduling and calendar and financing and like financials. And so for me, it's like I can coach now with buttons, because I've built a system for myself. And so then we opened it up, and we're like, well, let's just certify people in the system. Whoever wants it, let's do two things. Let's make it unbelievably inexpensive. So it's not like a $7,000 certification, $5,000. It's $239 a month. So it's not very expensive. And then let's make it where it's just, let's build a community of coaches, and they all serve each other. So we have all of our coaches use Slack, we connect, and it's called Community as Strategy. We leverage one another. So we basically said, let's make it not just an isolated single focus. Let's build community. Let's give them technology, and let's make it where they can use tools that their clients wow over. So that's what we did. And
Where did the original idea came from?
So I owned, back in the day, in 2006, I had bought John Maxwell's assets. So I owned all of John Maxwell's world. And then I built the brand LeaderCast and the Catalyst conferences. And these were like 185,000 people. And they'd come to see Tony Blair, or they'd come to pick a thought leader, Pat Lencioni, Jim Collins, whatever. And big stages, big events. And I realized, like, there was a point in time in 2012, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is done. This is 20th century. Like, and I didn't predict a global pandemic, but I was like, this is going to get disrupted. Yeah. And I don't want to be a part of, I don't want to have this big events. And I also noticed, like, it was just like a bunch of a leadership jargon. And I'm like so tired of it that I want it to be like real transformation. So I sold all of those businesses, and people thought I was crazy. Like, are you kidding me? You have John Maxwell's assets, you have this and that, and big events. What are you doing? I'm like, I started over. I moved and started with one client, and I started building something that was sustainable and that could scale. And everything else that I'd seen was not scalable. And the thing is this, we want to train people who train people who train people who train people. I mean, like and so we figured out how to do it. Cocktail napkins, simple tools, technology, make it work at home to an educated 13-year-old. If you can get your educated 13-year-old to get it, it will work inside every organization.
That's true. Now we're thinking about simplicity. How can we map out from the person watching it or seeing it, understanding it so clearly? It's like, here's what you're doing, step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, here you get it. And that's where the game is at, in particular in the online world, where, you don't have the luxury of time to explain to someone, this is how it works, this is how it's going to benefit you, this is the process. It needs to be so simple, because now you have their attention for seconds, not even minutes. If they cannot understand it in seconds, you're gone.
Absolutely. And that's the visual narrative. I mean, everything is driven off of these phones, right? Everything is driven visually. And so you have to have it visual. It has to be common language. It has to be simple enough that it can scale, but it also has to be sustainable. And that's the key component into leader development that we figured out to create sustainability. So anyway, that's kind of the philosophy and what we're kind of worked on.
It is fascinating. It is fascinating because a lot of people that I interview, they don't bring technology to the table. How does how can technology help coaches that are certified through this platform? So so if I want to understand, it's like, okay, I sign up to the platform, I pay you the $239 a month. What do I get? What's going to do for me and for my clients?
So you get about 8 certifications, not just one. You get the 5 Voices certification, which is some of the best content on personality. We took Jungian typology, Myers-Briggs, and we simplified it down to a 13-year-old can get it. And it's so much easier. So the 5 Voices, we hear it over and over. Google, Leidos, governments, they're like, oh my goodness, the 5 Voices works. It spreads, it scales. So you get 5 Voices, you get the 100X leader certification, you get digital age team leader certification, you get coaching certification, you get an intensive training. So you get about 8 certifications. You also get access to the platform, and in the platform, are we recording where you can see it? Can I show?
Yeah, absolutely.
So I'll show you, it's easier. So for those watching, you basically get access to our full, all of our bases. So Basecamp, sales training, coaching, 5 Voices, 100X leader, digital age team leader training, all of it. And then you're basically chatting with people all along. So we've got all of the certification. And then on top of it, you get the ability to use our platform and our technology. So this is like Netflix meets Peloton. And you basically have the ability of all of our content. We have about 850 episodes. And then you get to use the content to learn all the videos about you. How will extreme stress take you out? What happens to you under pressure? How to deal with conflict, so on and so forth, based on your personality and wiring. And so you learn how to use the platform with your clients and how to use technology with your clients. And then we have something called Sherpa training. And Sherpa training is like, it is unbelievably good. It's every single week you have a session you can do with your clients, or they can go through it themselves. And you start learning how to use Sherpa training and basically how to start using consistent technology to benefit you as a coach. And then on top of that, you have a coaching dashboard that I would put up against almost anyone. I mean, the coaching dashboard is, I can just show you an example of it real quick, but the coaching dashboard is like the ability to put in any information. You can in fact, let me go back one and show you a different person so I can get you a different score. There we go. Let's do this one right here. So you basically have the ability to check on someone. We call it a peace index and how they're doing, and check in with them. And you can have session notes that you can write. You use our tools that we pull up. So you can use any tool that you want. This one's called 70/30, and it's basically just a tool to show people where they're at. There's all types of, we have about 70 different tools that are used. So then all of it is designed to help you keep track of everything. So you have a challenge, you go into next steps, you can send emails, schedule the next appointment and meeting.
So it's like a client. So if I'm a coach that I sign up to it, and I can upload like all my clients, for example,
Absolutely.
and then having a dashboard to measure the progress that my clients are having. I can give them additional training. I can check in how they are doing. Is that correct?
That's it. Yes. And it keeps track of it for you. So it's always there. Then you send them the notes so they have access to all of it. And they then can keep track of it as well. So it gives you the ability to leverage technology to make your life easier. You can do billing, you can do all of your things from it if you want to, and scheduling.
That's really interesting, because when we're talking about running your coaching business of your dream, a lot of people don't want to go, based on experience, a lot of coaches, they don't want to get caught up in admin. That's right. There is a point in a coaching business when now you're dealing with multiple clients. Like if you're working with one or two clients at the time, then you can keep track in a Google Drive or in a Google folder. But there is a point where now either you're building a coaching organization or your coaching practice expand to the point where, for example, now I think we have about 600 active clients. We tried Google Drive. That ain't working. In particular, if you have, other people that are working around. So that helps definitely the coach to be more effective.
Absolutely.
With it. And okay, so regarding the I'm curious around the plans that you have for the future of the platform, because I know that every time I talk to a founder or someone that has something related to tech, the product that they put in place is slick, as we can see. Like for those of you that saw the video, and if you're just listening, make sure you go on YouTube and check it out. Like the platform looks good. It's not like one like crappy software that you see in the background. It's just like there has been a lot of thought put into the design, which I really appreciate. But what's next? What are some of the things that you're thinking to put in?
So we're creating right now, it launches in the first of the year. We're creating a 2.0. It's a marketplace. So we're basically building programs now. So imagine, we call it Sherpa training, but imagine if you have Evernote with personal leader development, and you can keep track of your own personal learning, but it's a learning journey that you can bolt on with coaching. We're creating something called Invincible Teams, where every team leader has the ability to do an assessment, like a Team 360. And then it keeps track of that. And then it gives them the chance to build their own learning as a team leader. Imagine so the coaching dashboard is about to go to the next level. You saw 1.0, 2.0 is about to be released. But then what we're building is we're building a marketplace. So coaches in our ecosystem, if they have their own content and if it's really good, they can call it program builder. They can take our own platform and they can white label it, and they can create their own content and they can resell it inside our ecosystem to other coaches. So if they have a program or a product or a course that's really, really good, then we're basically building our own marketplace. And we have close to about 700 coaches right now, and that are using Giant, and we're moving to about 3,000 is kind of the goal. And then we'll have a marketplace where they're basically working to grow their own content as well.
So it sounds like a great way to also build community between the different coaches. GTeX, we are really passionate about building communities, getting people together. I blame it on my Italian heritage. And it's all about that, and it's way more fulfilling, and in particular in the online world where everyone feels like isolated, then the ability to collaborate, share resources, share network, that's invaluable. Okay,
like
so
just a minute ago, we have a Slack channel. Our Slack channel basically just launched. Two of the coaches worked together, and they built a new DEI pathway called the DEI Sherpa pathway for inclusive leader training, and they built it on our content and our platform. They just released it, so it's just an example of them working together.
Of that collaboration in action.
Yep.
That has been an incredible interview, and definitely an insight in a platform that I'm a bit of a tech junkie. Like I love exploring different platforms and thinking, how can I use technology to make my work better, to make our clients more efficient in our company, for our clients. And that's definitely a tool to add to the toolkit. And it is great to be able to see the behind the scene. In fact, I invite everyone who's been listening to the show actually to go in and check in the YouTube part, the segment where it shows the behind the scene, because then you can see the application of Giant. Jeremies, someone wants to reach out to you, get certified, use the platform, use Giant. What's the best way?
Yeah, so go to giantcoach.com/explode. It's giantcoach.com/explode. And then that gives you the chance. And here's a couple of things you can do. One, if you want to try on the 5 voices and learn your personality, you can do it for free. Just go in and take the test, the assessment, and then you can watch the videos. It's really, really fun. Especially any of those have done, traditional DISC or traditional Myers-Briggs. It's so much simpler and more relevant. Then you can see about certification. You can take a look whether you're a side hustle coach, or maybe you're already full-time and you want to add this to your repertoire, or you want to be full-time. Then there's a ton of resources that are available at giantcoach.com/explode.
So giantcoach.com/explode. Make sure you check it out. And definitely, I'm going to take the test. I'm curious. I love to take personality tests. The one that I've been studying recently that has been eye-opening, but quite complex to understand. Not talking about a simple one. This is more for the advanced one. Is Chinese astrology, the Bazai chart. And it took a while to understand, but man, that's good. And then they got the Myers-Briggs, the DISC. So I'm kind of way to well dynamic, kind of way to do this one as well. So make sure you check it out, everyone. The link is in the show notes. Jeremies, it's time to wrap up. So if what is your final message? What would you like to leave our listeners with?
Yeah, so actually, and I appreciate this about you too, because you're authentic, but it's, if you want to be someone worth following versus someone that has to follow, then being worth following means you have to learn how to be intentional with life, not accidental. And most people drift back to accidental living. So just to encourage you to be intentional about the areas of growth and things you want to do in your life. It's a harder way to live, but a much more fun way to live than just accidentally going about life.
Be intentional. Be intentional. That's the final message. Jeremies, thank you very much for being on the show. It has been fun and eye-opening to see what you have created, and congratulations. It looks like a great system. So everyone, make sure you check it out, get certified, check the test as well. And until next time, remember that together we grow exponentially. I'll see you next time. Ciao.